This e-learning lesson is going to cover setting up your options in Wise Option. We're going to cover 5 tabs in the options category. General tab, your Mare Management tab that you'll only have if you have the Reproduction module, the Boarding tab, which will relate to our billing procedures, the Backup tab, and our Breeding Contracts tab, which again will apply only if you're doing the Reproduction module. We're going to go to Wise Option, and it's important that you be logged in as the administrator for this. We're going to go to Tools and Options. This will then open up our options for our settings. We're going to cover all of the options that somebody that has the most extensive version of Wise Option has to make sure they're all covered. If you don't have a tab that we cover, just skip to the next one. The first tab you'll see is a General tab. The one thing we want to point out here to get started is you need to select your operation type. If you have artificial insemination, thoroughbred, or live cover, or both. You're going to set up your currency symbol, either dollar or euro. The category for your new statements, the category for charging service fees, whether or not you'd like to tax your customers for the percentages set up in your task file. If you'd like to close out the periods, you can choose to not allow health records to be deleted. Your invoice presentation can either contain a single amount, either for total due or a credit, or you can show separate values for those. The bottom is where you will update your address and phone number. Some of these are covered in other lessons in greater detail. This is just going to be an overview. The second tab is our Mare Management, and here you'll see job purposes for a couple of categories. The stallions, the donors, and the recipients. It's important that any horse that is going to be a sire be listed as, in my case, a stallion. You can change that or rename it to whatever you'd like, but they all need to be the same. Same thing with the donors and the recipients. The recipient mare could be a sale horse, for example, but if she's going to show up on the embryo transfer logs and such, she needs to have the class or job for recipient. You'll be able to set your task associated for palpations and for pregnancy exams, also associated with Proston. You can avoid reminding the stallion and the breeder when you're entering a breeding log here, and also avoid automatic entries in the mare record. Now, this bottom section is covered in more detail in another lesson. This is where you would choose to set up which tasks, when you perform them as procedures, you would like to be added to the mare record. So, for example, my culture, whenever I bill someone a culture, it writes a line on the mare record such as a palpation, so I don't have to go into the procedures, rather just scroll up on her mare record. The third tab is the boarding. Notice, please, that on each one of these there is a task associated with each charge. If you want to change that task, that's fine. Just make sure you don't delete it. This will cause you a little bit of trouble when you try to run the boarding module because there is a task associated with each one of these items. It's important on this one that you look at this charge first day. If you would like to charge the first day of arrival, please check that box. If you don't want to charge the first day and you only want to charge the last day, leave it unchecked and the system will do that for you. Move on to the next tab, Backup. If you are running Wise Option on a network and you have multiple terminals, it is very important that you perform this set location on the terminal that is acting as your server or your server. Go to that terminal, again, log on as administrator, go to Tools, Options, and Backup. Once you get to the server, you would select this set location. If you're running it just on one computer, a laptop, for example, you can go ahead and click it on your laptop. You would do the set location. Again, it's going to remind you, make sure that you're running on a server. If you are not using a server, you can click yes, and if you are working directly off the server, you can click yes. If you are not using this on a server at this moment and you need to change over, say no and nothing will happen. If you say yes, it will then set the location and that works. Again, very important that if you're running this on a network that you do this actual task from the server. Your last tab is breeding contracts, and this is the area where you can enter descriptions for the fields in the breeding contracts. Once all of this has been completed, you'll click OK, and it will save all of your settings. So for today, we've learned how to set up the general options in Wise Option for the General tab, the Mare Management tab, the Boarding tab, the Backup tab, as well as the Breeding Contracts tab.